The cold hospital room felt darker than usual that day. Lily Thompson, a mother of 3, sat on the edge of her hospital bed, gripping her husband James' hand tightly. Her heart raced, and her thoughts were consumed by the news she had just received. She had been battling cancer for months now, and despite all her efforts, it seemed like the disease was winning. But as the doctor entered the room, a flicker of hope appeared. The doctor, looking at the results from her latest tests, smiled. "Lily, your cancer markers are down. You're in remission." The words seemed impossible. For so long, Lily had been told her prognosis was bleak, but this was the moment she had dreamed of, the moment she was going to beat cancer. But that wasn't the end of the story. No, this was just the beginning. Just as the tears began to fill her eyes with joy, the doctor's tone changed. "I'm happy for you, Lily. But there's more. You've been through so much, and it's clear that you're a fighter. But the real battle isn't over. Cancer never truly lets go, and you must remain vigilant. You must live every day with the understanding that it could return." Lily's heart dropped as the weight of the doctor's words sank in. Could cancer return? She looked at her family, James, her husband, the love of her life, and their 3 children. Sam, their teenager who always tried to stay strong, even when everything seemed to crumble. Emily, their 10-year-old who wanted to save the world. And little Ryan, their youngest, full of hope, unaware of the storm his family had weathered. James squeezed her hand. "We've been through this before, Lily. But we are stronger now. We've all been strong together, and we will continue to be strong. We'll face whatever comes, as a family." Lily nodded, trying to swallow the fear that had risen in her chest. She had lived through the chemotherapy, the endless doctor's appointments, the radiation, and the pain. She had made it through all of that. But now, with the weight of uncertainty still looming, she was determined not to let cancer take anything from her. The very next day, something remarkable happened. Lily was in the living room, resting after a long day of appointments, when she heard laughter coming from the kitchen. She walked in to find Sam, Emily, and Ryan all crowded around James, who was in the middle of telling one of his famous stories. "Mom, listen," Emily called out, her eyes twinkling. "Dad was telling us that you're a superhero." Lily raised an eyebrow. "A superhero? I think you've been listening to your dad's stories a little too much." No, seriously." Ryan chimed in. "You beat cancer, Mom. You're like Wonder Woman. You can do anything." Lily felt a lump form in her throat. It had been a long, hard journey, but hearing her kids say these words reminded her why she had fought so hard, to see them smile, to be there for them as they grew up. They had been through so much together, and she wasn't going to let cancer take away those precious moments. But it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about her whole family. Over the next few months, the Thompson family worked together in ways they had never done before. The focus was no longer just on Lily's survival. It was about giving back and sharing their story. They became active in cancer support groups, helping other families who were just beginning their own journeys. They knew the struggle, and they wanted to share the message that there was hope, no matter how dark the road seemed. One day, while volunteering at a local hospital, Lily met a young woman named Tonya, who had just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Tonya was scared, uncertain of what the future held. Her family was too distraught to help her see beyond the diagnosis. But Lily, now standing stronger than ever, walked over to Tonya with a soft smile. "I know what you're going through," Lily said gently. "I've been there. But I promise you, there is hope. We can fight this together." Tonya looked at Lily with disbelief in her eyes. How could someone who had faced death and returned from it be standing there, so strong and full of life? Lily knew she had to be a beacon of hope for Tonya, just as she had been for her own family. In the weeks that followed, Lily's health continued to improve. She became more involved in cancer support and advocacy, speaking at events and raising funds for research. Her family was right by her side every step of the way, offering support and love. But just when things seemed like they were looking up, Lily began to feel unwell again. She ignored the symptoms at first, brushing them off as nothing more than exhaustion from the work she was doing. But one evening, as she sat in bed, the familiar weight of fear crept in. She knew something wasn't right. Her thoughts rushed back to the doctor's warning. Cancer never truly lets go. Could it have returned? The next morning, Lily went to the doctor for an emergency appointment. The moment the doctor walked in with a somber expression, she knew something was wrong. "We need to run some tests," the doctor said, "but there's a chance your cancer might have returned." Lily's heart pounded in her chest. She had fought so hard, and now she might lose it all. Would she have to face cancer again? Could she survive it a second time? The news hit Lily like a storm. It had only been a few months since her remission, and now she was faced with the terrifying possibility that the cancer might have returned. She sat in the cold examination room, her thoughts racing. Her family was by her side, but the silence between them was heavy. James, her husband, reached for her hand and squeezed it. His eyes, usually so strong, were filled with the same uncertainty she felt. He had stood by her side through every chemotherapy session, every sleepless night. They had both believed that they had come through the worst. But now, the idea of another battle was almost too much to bear. The doctor entered the room, his face serious. "Lily," he began, "we've run the tests, and while we can't say for sure yet, we need to prepare for the possibility that your cancer may have returned." Lily's heart sank, but she forced herself to take a deep breath. She had already faced this monster once. What made this time any different? The thought of leaving her children, of losing everything she had fought for, terrified her, but she wasn't about to let fear control her. She had been strong before, and she would be strong again. "Do we know for sure?" Lily asked, her voice steady despite the fear inside. The doctor shook his head. "Not yet. We need to perform more scans and tests, but given the symptoms, it's a possibility." Lily nodded, her mind racing. "All right, then let's get the tests done." She turned to James, who had a worried look in his eyes, but she tried to smile. "We've been through worse. We'll get through this too." James looked at her, his heart full of admiration. Her resilience never ceased to amaze him. "We're with you, every step of the way." In the days that followed, Lily underwent a series of scans and tests. Her family stayed close, supporting her as best they could. But despite the tests, the uncertainty weighed heavily on them. The hope they had built was now crumbling, and Lily couldn't shake the feeling that the fight wasn't over. It was on one of these long nights that Lily had a conversation with Sam, her oldest child. Sam had been quiet for a while, watching his mother with concern. At 16, he was mature for his age, but this battle had shaken him deeply. He had seen his mother fight so hard to stay alive, and the thought of losing her was something he could barely bear. "Mom," Sam said softly, sitting beside her on the couch. "Do you think you can beat it again? I mean, what if it's just too much this time?" Lily looked at her son, her heart aching at the fear in his eyes. She had tried to shield him from the worst of it, but he was growing up fast, and he had seen enough to know the truth. "Sam, I've already beaten cancer once," she said, her voice strong. "And I'll beat it again, if I have to. But the truth is, I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing it for all of you. I need you to be strong too." Sam's eyes filled with tears, but he wiped them away quickly, trying to hide his emotions. "I don't want to lose you, Mom. You won't lose me." Lily's voice was filled with certainty. "I have too much left to do. I've made a promise to myself and to you that I won't give up, no matter what happens." Just then, the doorbell rang, and the whole family gathered around as Emily and Ryan entered the room with a tray of cookies they had baked together. The tension in the room lightened as Emily laughed, and little Ryan giggled as he proudly showed off his cookie creations. It was these little moments, the moments of laughter and joy, that Lily held on to. She wasn't about to let cancer steal her family's happiness again. The following week, the test results came back, and the doctor's face was grim. "It's true," the doctor said. "The cancer has returned. We'll need to start treatment immediately." But Lily didn't crumble. Her resolve hardened. She had been given a second chance once, and she wouldn't waste it. "Then we start treatment," she said firmly, her voice unwavering. "I've already come this far. I'm not going to stop now." As the days turned into weeks, the treatment process began again. Lily felt the familiar exhaustion creeping in, the nausea, the weakness, the fatigue. But she refused to let it defeat her. Her children needed her, and she wasn't going to let them down. One evening, as she lay in bed, her body weak from the treatments, she heard a knock on the door. It was Tonya, a woman who Lily had met during her first battle with cancer. Tonya had been diagnosed with breast cancer shortly after Lily's own diagnosis, and they had formed a strong bond. Tonya had become one of Lily's greatest supporters, helping her through the darkest moments of her treatment. "Lily," Tonya said as she entered the room, "I know what you're going through, and I want you to know that you don't have to do this alone. I'm here, just like I was before. You've helped me, and now it's my turn to help you." Tonya's words brought a sense of peace to Lily's heart. It was a reminder that no matter how hard the battle, she didn't have to face it alone. But just as the two women shared a quiet moment of comfort, the sound of an explosion rocked the house, shaking the walls. The ground beneath them trembled, and the house seemed to come alive with the sound of destruction. Was this just another nightmare, or was something far worse happening?